So today we're going to be talking with the Department of Transportation about the Hawaii Road Usage Charge. Just a little bit about Hawaii EV Association. We are a statewide organization, and we started basically with all the EV clubs in the state joining forces to promote clean transportation. And we do that through education, such as this webinar today. We do advocacy and awareness through various events, and we also support clean transportation legislation and initiatives. So as everyone probably has noticed on our roadways, there's definitely a lot more EVs than there were, over the past 3-4 years. There's EVs now, every major car brand has them, everything from sedans, SUVs to trucks. And you can see basically the exponential growth in this chart here in Hawaii. Statewide, as of May, we are now at over 37,000 EVs in the state. So that's a pretty big jump from, where we were just a few years ago. So as we transition away from gas cars, we do need to modernize how we pay for our roadway infrastructure. So the road usage charge, what we're calling the HiRUC, is a step in that direction. And that's what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to introduce Mindy, but just really quickly, if you guys have questions, you can put them into the chat, and then we'll go ahead and get those answered at the end. So we're really fortunate today to have our guest, Mindy Kimura. She is an engineer with the Hawaii State Department of Transportation and also the program manager for the Hawaii Road Usage Program. She was born and raised on Maui and graduated from the University of Portland with a mechanical engineering degree. As an engineer and program manager, Mindy is dedicated to contributing to building a more resilient, innovative, and sustainable future for Hawaii transportation systems. So we want to thank Mindy for taking time today to be with us. Welcome, Mindy. I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nanette, for the introduction, and thank you for having me present on the Hawaii Road Usage Charge program during your guys' webinar. Like Nanette mentioned, my name is Mindy Kimura. I'm with the Hawaii State Department of Transportation, and I am the Hawaii Road Usage Charge Program Manager. So in my agenda today for our this presentation, first I'll be covering the background information on what the HiRUC program is, including how we are presenting and sharing some of the context as well as motivations for the program. Then I'll be providing some of the HiRUC program's implementation and communications efforts, followed by some frequently asked questions that we've received by Hawaii residents, drivers, EV owners, and our county DMVs. And I'll also ensure to leave some time at the end for you all to ask any questions, but please feel free to bring any questions up during my presentation. So first, some background information on the Hawaii Road Usage Charge Program. Like Nanette mentioned, in addition to gasoline-powered vehicles becoming more efficient, Hawaii is also seeing those rapid adoption of electric vehicles. Hawaii residents are doing the right thing in rapidly adopting these electric vehicles, as it's part of our shared commitment to each other as a community coming together. And the Hawaii Department of Transportation is also doing our part to help this, to help support this transition in a sustainable and effective way. So in Hawaii, we pay a state and county fuel tax along with a federal fuel tax. The state fuel tax rate is set at 16 cents per gallon. The county fuel taxes range depending on what county you're in. So for the city and county of Honolulu, that rate is 16.5 cents per gallon. And there's also a federal fuel tax rate at 18.4 cents per gallon. So as you can see, the gas tax that is collected for road maintenance amounts to a little less than 10% of what we actually pay at the pump, and the remaining 90% of what we pay is the cost for the fuel itself. And some others interesting and helpful contextual statistics. I also mentioned that there are more than 36,000 EVs registered in the state, which is now a little over 3% of our overall fleet in Hawaii. And this is actually an 18% increase in EV adoption from March of 2024. And the average number of miles driven per year in the state of Hawaii comes out to roughly 9,000 miles per year. So what is a road usage charge? A road usage charge, or RUC, is a roadway consumption charge that assesses a per mile fee on a driver based on how many miles they drive. It is a per mile fee that drivers pay instead of fuel taxes or things like the EV registration surcharge. It does three things. It employs the user pays principle, provides equity in the use of the system, and provides sustainable long-term funding. So this bar chart shows in the light green the disparity between the different types of vehicles right now based on what a driver pays in the fuel tax. Uh, as you can see, this creates an inequitable system. However, with a road usage charge, a person pays based on the numbers of miles that they drive and not based on the amount of fuel that they use or their vehicle's engine type. Some residents have to drive bigger vehicles or they simply can't afford to upgrade to higher MPG or more fuel-efficient vehicles. Hence, they are unfairly charged for their equal and fair use of the road. A road usage charge is meant to be that fair transportation funding for everyone. So this chart shows the decline in the motor fuel tax over time. Superimposed over this is how the road usage charge on electric vehicles would help to fill that gap and operate as a sustainable alternative to the fuel tax. Yes. So how will the Hawaii road usage charge revenue be used in Hawaii? So per Act 222, which is the authorizing legislation for the Hawaii road usage charge program, the purpose of the program is to replace the state motor fuel taxes for electric vehicles and ultimately to eliminate the annual state vehicle registration surcharge for electric vehicles. The HiRUC program's revenues is a fair way to help fund the maintenance of the roads and bridges that we drive on every day. It'll fund a vital resource that we use every day, which are our roads, which connect us to our communities, schools, work, hospitals, and loved ones. As we move away from the gas vehicles, we must moderate how we fund our roadways and bridges, and the HiRUC program for electric vehicles is just the first step towards replacing that EV registration surcharge and ultimately replacing the fuel tax for all vehicles statewide. The HiRUC program's revenue will not be used for non-related transportation programs. Per Act 222, the monies collected from the road usage charge program shall be deposited into the State Highway Fund established under the Hawaii Revised Statute Section 248-8. So now moving into the HiRUC program's implementation efforts. So as the fourth state in the nation to adopt a road usage charge program, Hawaii's RUC legislation closely followed Hawaii DOT's final report recommendation. So what exactly in the bill? The legislation specifically includes the following provisions. Beginning July 1st, 2025, electric vehicle drivers will have the option to pay a state per mile road usage charge capped at $50 or pay a state flat annual road usage charge of $50. The per mile road usage charge rate is set in legislation at $8 per 1,000 miles, which equates to about a little less than a penny per mile. Beginning July 1st, 2028, so 3 years from now, EV drivers, the state per mile road usage charge will then become mandatory for all EV drivers, meaning that that flat annual road usage charge choice gets removed. In the meantime, the Hawaii Department of Transportation is also tasked with creating a long-term transition plan to move all light-duty passenger vehicles into the road usage charge program by 2033. So this plan is due to the Hawaii State Legislature at the end of this year, December 2025. So some further look into that, again, beginning July 1st, 2025, EV owners will be given a choice when they go to renew their annual vehicle registration. EV owners can either choose to pay a state per mile road usage charge of $8 per 1,000 miles driven, which again is less than a penny per mile, and it is also capped at $50. Or they can just pay a state flat annual road usage charge of $50. I do want to note that both of these options presented for the Hawaii road usage charge program will replace the state's current $50 EV registration surcharge. In terms of what this looks like from an EV owner's experience, again, beginning July 1st, EV owners will have that choice presented to them, and it will be printed on your vehicle registration renewal notice. On that notice, EV drivers will choose between the per mile road usage charge and the flat annual road usage charge. Once they make their choice, EV owners will then see the road usage charge amount owed associated with their choice, and the road usage charge amount owed would be paid all together at the same time as your payment for your regular annual registration renewal. Once paid, your road usage charge choice has been captured, and then your registration renewal certificate will be printed. So not too much change than what you're already doing today in terms of your registration renewal process. So the road usage charge will be calculated at the time of registration renewal notice generation. And we're going to be using the two most recent valid odometer readings. So Hawaii is unique in the sense where we have an existing annual vehicle inspection system where nearly all electric vehicles are inspected on an annual basis, including that odometer reading being captured. This inspection, in addition to the odometer reading, must be completed before any driver can renew their registration. And it was also tested as one of the most favorable mileage reporting methods in our demonstration project for this program. So in our upcoming program, HDOT will serve as the program administrator, but we are relying on our key partnerships with our county DMVs and key agencies within the state of Hawaii, especially with the Department of IT with the city and county of Honolulu, to ensure that we're rolling out a smooth implementation of the HiRUC program. In addition, we must also partner with you all, the EV owners, who will be the first to have the opportunity to choose this road usage charge in Hawaii and lead us through this transition. So now moving into some of the HiRUC program's communication efforts. The Hawaii Department of Transportation has been working in close partnership with our Hawaii County DMVs to best inform and assist EV drivers through this transition. As such, we have distributed both digital and paper copies of customer-facing materials, including flyers and posters, vehicle registration and licensing slides that will be displayed in the DMV lobbies, rack cards, and a fact sheet. The information being shared with you all today will also be available on these materials at your local DMV. In addition to that, the Hawaii Road Usage Charge Program has also sent out postcards. They are mailing this week, so some EV owners have actually started to get them this week. But this is going to be mailed out on a monthly basis, and it's really for EV owners who will be getting a registration renewal notice come the month of July. So again, these postcards are going to be mailed out on a monthly rolling basis, and EV owners can expect to see these postcards in their mailbox before their registration renewal notice is sent out and before your registration is due. This is really to give you guys a heads up with some specific high-level information about what the Hawaii Road Usage Charge Program is, as well as resources to our website and further information. And here is a quick overview of the HiRUC program's website, which can be found at hiruc.org. The website features frequently asked questions, resources, and most importantly, an EV road usage charge estimator, which I'll talk a little bit about more later on in this presentation. In addition, on the HDOT's YouTube page, there is a Hawaii Road Usage Charge playlist where we will be uploading related HiRUC information. We currently have this about HiRUC YouTube video posted. It's a quick 45-second clip about the program.
The Hawaii Road Usage Charge Program, or HiRUC, is a new way to pay for maintenance on the state roads and bridges we drive on every day. As more vehicles in Hawaii are becoming more fuel efficient, HiRUC is one way to replace gas taxes. Starting July 1st, drivers of most electric vehicles will be able to choose between paying a state flat annual fee and a per mile road usage charge capped at $50 per year at the time of their registration renewal. For more information on the Hawaii Road Usage Charge, check out HiRUC.org.
Okay, so now to talk about some frequently asked questions that we've been receiving by Hawaii residents, drivers, EV owners, and our county DMVs as well. Okay. So one question that we've gotten is, what about the EV surcharge that drivers are currently paying today? So like I mentioned before, upon launch of the HiRUC program, the state's current $50 EV registration surcharge will phase out. This is because beginning July 1st, the HiRUC program replaces that EV surcharge for those RUC eligible vehicles. Specifically for Maui County drivers, it is also important to note that EV drivers in the Maui County will have to continue to pay the $100 Maui County EV surcharge. This is something that's separate than the state initiatives right now. Another question that we've received is, what does eligible EV mean? So beginning July 1st, vehicles subject to the HiRUC program must meet the following criteria. They must be registered in Hawaii, are fully electric, meaning not plug-in, hybrid, or hybrid, those PHEVs. They must have 3 or more wheels, must be able to operate at or above 35 miles per hour, and have a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,000 pounds or less. And this is really to delineate the difference between an electric vehicle that's an automobile versus those EV scooters and neighborhood electric vehicles. And kind of alluding to that is, does this mean that the total amount, annual amount that an EV driver pays, will that increase because of this program? Short answer, no. Again, the road usage charge program is meant to replace the EV registration surcharge that EV drivers are already paying today. So EV drivers can actually have the opportunity to pay less than they do today. Starting on your next registration renewal renewal reminder, drivers of electric vehicles who drive fewer than around 6,250 miles per year will pay less than what they do today, which is at $50. Also, one important thing to know is that rural and low-income households could also benefit from the HiRUC program, and that's because rural and low-income household residents tend to drive older, less fuel-efficient vehicles, so they could also potentially pay less with this per mile road usage charge program. So how will eligible EV drivers be notified of the HiRUC program? In addition to all the other communication materials that we are pushing forward, on the first registration renewal notice sent after July 1st, eligible EV drivers will see the option to choose between the state per mile road usage charge or the state flat annual road usage charge. If a driver chooses the per mile road usage charge, they will continue to pay the per mile road usage charge in their future renewals. And the reason behind that is because we go mandatory for all electric vehicles in the per mile road usage charge program beginning in July 1st, 2020. So in 3 years, we're going to be transitioning to per mile road usage charge anyways. So we didn't want that back and forth flopping between the two choices, mainly from a systematic standpoint and the complications that come with that. However, if an EV driver chooses the flat annual road usage charge, they will continue to be presented with that option to choose the per mile road usage charge in their future renewals until 2028. And then what happens if a driver's mileage is not recorded accurately? So that's in these cases where there's either incorrect, inaccurate, or missing mileage data, like missed safety inspection, things like that. But the road usage charge amount due will be defaulted to that state flat annual road usage charge of $50. And I'll touch a little bit more about that in this slide. So how does this impact EV drivers with insufficient mileage data, and how will they be notified? So this registration renewal notification explains that this EV owner does not have the sufficient odometer data that we need in order to do the per mile road usage charge calculation. Therefore, this EV owner will not be able to choose the per mile road usage charge, and they'll be defaulted to that flat annual $50. And then how do EV drivers determine what option is best for them? As a reminder, EV drivers will be defaulted into the per mile road usage charge program, and mainly because by defaulting drivers into the per mile road usage charge, EV owners will be given the least costly option because the per mile RUC will always be less than or equal to the flat annual RUC option. However, EV owners can go ahead and choose to opt out of the per mile road usage charge and just pay the $50 flat annual if they choose so. So as previously mentioned, the HiRUC.org website does have an EV road usage charge estimator tool. EV drivers can use the road usage charge estimator tool to estimate their potential road usage charge. The potential road usage charge. EV drivers will just need to go in and type in their estimated annual miles driven, and then the estimator will go ahead and just do the calculation for you and display how much you would owe in a per mile road usage charge option versus what that would look like in the flat annual option. So you can kind of see there are different options available. And finally, this is what a registration renewal certificate with a road usage charge will look like. Notice we do have an additional line item to your registration renewal certificate. It'll clearly state what the miles driven that you've done within that year from your safety inspections, as well as the road usage charge amount due associated with those miles driven. So we're making it very transparent and clear as to how much you're going to be owing from this program. We're also capturing the ending odometer reading that was recorded at the time of your registration renewal certificate. So that way you can always check, like if you're midway through the year on your registration cycle, about how many miles have I driven in this past 6 months, you can always refer to your last registration certificate and see what your last recorded odometer reading was. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you all for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thanks very much, Mindy. That was really informative. I think I had a lot of my questions answered, but I know that there are still questions in the chat. Noel, you want to go through those?
Yeah, I can do that. Mindy, would you mind doing stop sharing the screen? Okay, we can see each other. Thank you. Yeah, so there are a few questions here, maybe 4 or 5. The first one is from Thomas. The option for per mile versus $50, can that option be changed from year to year?
So I touched a little bit about this in the presentation, but once you choose the per mile road usage charge, you're going to remain in that option for until 2028 again, because we don't want, in terms of the backend systems, it's hard to do that flip flop between the two options. So because we're going mandatory anyway, once you choose per mile road usage charge, you're in it until 2028. But if you choose the flat annual option and you become more comfortable with the program, understand it a little bit more, you can always choose the per mile road usage charge in your next registration renewal cycle.
Thank you. The other question I see here is, does the road usage charge cover both state and county fuel tax? And
Yes.
What are the fuel taxes for other counties?
Yeah, great question. I know there's been a lot going on, especially after this past legislative session. But right now, the Hawaii Road Usage Charge Program only replaces the state fuel tax. The county fuel tax, it's going to remain as is. And then the different rates for the county fuel tax, right now, the city and county of Honolulu is at 16.5 cents per gallon. The county of Maui is at 24 cents per gallon. The Kauai County is at 17 cents per gallon, and then Hawaii County at 23 cents per gallon. So we are working with the counties, though, to figure out a way to expand the program, just like how we're expanding it statewide.
Thank you, Mindy. The next question, how long will the $50 cap remain in place? And does the state intend to increase the road usage charge in the future?
In terms of, sorry, what was...
So I think the cap you addressed, right? It's until 28.
Well, right now, there is no legislation to remove the cap. So right now the cap is in place indefinitely. But we are looking for, as we do begin to expand the program and move in more and more vehicles, a $50 cap in terms of making sure that we're having sustainable funding to upkeep our roads. A $50 cap isn't where we need to be in terms of setting that benchmark. However, though, the current rate that's set, the $8 per 1,000 miles, is meant to be revenue neutral. So it's revenue neutral to what an average vehicle pays in the gas tax. Any talks about increasing that rate would have to go back to the legislatures, and they'll have to make that change then.
Great. Roy had a follow-up to Ed's question. If there are increases, I'm not sure. So if there are increases, will there be a cap on how much these fees can increase? I think well, did you answer that?
Yeah.
You did.
Well, yeah, in terms of that rate and what those fees will be, it's up to the legislature, but we are working with them. We're also working with our long-term transition advisory group, which Hawaii EV Association is a part of, to kind of really look at what those rates need to be to set us for a sustainable path moving forward.
Great. Dawn has a question. What if your inspection is due the month after your registration renewal?
Yeah, great question. We do know that in terms of the alignment between safety check and registration, they're not always the same month or within the same kind of time period. Because of that, we're just going to be taking your two most recent odometer readings. Whatever we have in the system, whatever is the two most recent ones, that's what we're going to be using for that calculation. We are going to be flagging that those odometer readings have been used already, so you will never be double charged for mileage that you've already driven and paid for. Yeah.
Kind of related to that is the next question. So it deals with new, right? So will cars registered when new have mileage information?
Yeah, there's another little stipulation in the legislation regarding new purchased vehicles. So after the first year of vehicle ownership of a new vehicle, a safety check inspection is required, meaning that we won't have mileage data for 1 year, but you do have to renew your registration. Given that we don't have the mileage, those vehicles, because we don't have the mileage, will just pay the $50 flat fee. However, on the second time that you go ahead and renew, so year 2 of your registration, you are then required to get a safety inspection. So now we'll have 2 years of mileage data. What we do with that 2 years of mileage data is we then calculate what that road usage charge would be for the 2 years, and we'll actually true up that value given the fact that you already paid $50 in year 1. So say in 2 years, your road usage charge would end up being $80. You already paid $50 the first year. So we'll minus the $50 from the $80 and you'll just pay $30 instead.
Cynthia, I think your last question here kind of relates to that as well. Mindy, just to clarify, if you have a new vehicle, right, 0 miles or 1 mile, it sounds like based on your response, it would be assessed to 50. Is that right? Did I hear that right?
No, so the $50 would only be charged after your first registration, but in terms of when you actually get the car, so like when you're registering it because you're at mile 0, you wouldn't get charged anything.
Exactly. Yeah. So okay, got it. Okay, and then Christopher has a question, and I'd like to tag on to that. Why is this road usage charge not applied to all vehicles instead of just the EVs, right? It seems like it would further encourage transition to EVs when ICE vehicles have to pay both fuel and road usage charge. And maybe kind of like an add-on to that is what about the medium and heavy duty vehicles as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of when we went into discussions with the legislature as to how to best implement this program, the biggest suggestion was start with a smaller group before we expand to make sure that we're running the program most efficiently as possible, and in a way that's easier to understand and further refine as we expand. Given the fact that right now electric vehicles just pay a flat annual fee, the best way was to kind of use the electric vehicle subgroups as the first phase for the implementation of this program. When you start talking about gas-powered vehicles or ICE vehicles, they already pay the gas tax today. So we can't charge them both a gas tax and a road usage charge. That's double taxation. That's not what the program is intended to do. You either pay the gas tax or you pay the road usage charge. So that is a very intricate system in terms of figuring out that we're figuring out a system to make sure that we are not double taxing those ICE vehicles. Hope that kind of answered that.
Thanks, Mindy. What about the what's the plan for medium and heavy duty vehicles? Because this plan by 2033 covers just light duty, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, so that becomes a more intricate conversation in terms of balancing the delicacy between fuel taxes, road usage charge, and the weight tax conversation. The county and state weight taxes are already high enough as they are. So when we do talk about medium duty vehicles, heavy duty vehicles, that will come in the long run as well. But first, we're just trying to focus on the light duty passenger vehicles by 2033.
It would also seem that at some point when, let's focus on medium duty vehicles, because we know that heavy duty vehicles are also now being electrified, right? At some point, you'd have these vehicles not consuming fossil fuel. And at that point, and it could be well beyond 2033, we may see something similar as well, I would assume.
Yep. Correct, yes.
Okay. Christopher has another question here. Have you considered exempting rideshare drivers from the road usage charge, given their role in reducing traffic, cutting emissions, lowering drunk driving incidents, easing parking demands, supporting tourism, and expanding access to transit?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do know that those rideshare drivers do contribute a decent amount of mileage, and the contribution that they make in moving around our tourism industry, as well as even our residents who are just visiting neighbor islands. That is something that we're looking further into via a research paper to kind of figure out what those impacts are and how we can kind of mitigate those. So that is to be determined in our long-term transition plan.
Great.
Great questions.
Any other questions from anyone? You can just speak up or add it to the chat. Great. Well,
I had a question real quick.
Yes, Mike. Go
Oh
ahead.
yeah. So is there any consideration or thought for the differences between the different counties? So like Hawaii Island, for example, is far more spread out, and the distances between the different destinations is quite big in some regards. So is there any rebalance as far as like what the state is looking at from a county per county designation? Because like I know like destinations like for Maui or for even Oahu would be shorter distances, realizing that that doesn't encapsulate time on the road. That's a different thing altogether. But just looking at it purely from the distances between point A to point B, is there any considerations for Hawaii Island in that regard?
Yeah, good question. So right now, the road usage charge is set up to mimic what the state fuel tax is intended to do. And right now, the state fuel tax is the same statewide, regardless of which county you're in. In terms of the county fuel tax rate, that's where we kind of see that differentiation in those revenues. But in our conversations with the counties, in terms of expanding this program to the counties as well with a county road usage charge, there has been discussions on the counties being able to set their own rates that's best fit for their residents, given the fact that there's so many different driving habits within each county. But in terms of adding in more language to the legislation, when you talk about differentiations in congestion and everyday habits, it conflated the bill to where it created much more intrications that would make the transition even more difficult and harder to convey and understand. So this first phase of the Hawaii Road Usage Charge program is really just trying to get the ball rolling on the new change in the way that we fund our roads and bridges.
Thanks, Mindy. Any other questions?
No, that was really great. Really good questions. As Mindy mentioned, Hawaii EV is part of the strategic planning, long-range strategic planning for the road usage charge. So if there's any concerns or other questions that you have, feel free to contact us. And Noel, you can put up our contact screen, our email. We've got social media as well. So feel free to contact us. And I know the Department of Transportation is really interested in hearing from the EV community. They're being very transparent, and I'm really glad to see how transparent you guys are being as far as the calculation and everything. But yeah, feel free to contact us, and we can incorporate your thoughts or your questions into future planning meetings for the road usage charge.
Before we conclude, I also want to just, mahalo longtime EV owners and EV owners in general. We clearly are the tip of the spear, right? I mean, some of us have been driving electric since 2011 or so. And so I can proudly say that, we're leading the charge in terms of our transition to a fossil fuel free transportation system and energy system. And what we're doing here, I think, is also a demonstration of our leadership in helping to make this transition happen, which is inevitable. It's at some point, it's going to be difficult to drive a gas car or even buy a gas car. So doing this now, is something that we firmly believe needs to happen.
And we will have this available, the recording available in the next week or so. So if you want to go back and see some of the presentation, we'll share that link as well.
Yeah, it'll be on the website. It'll be on our YouTube channel, and we invite everyone to share it as well with others who may not have been able to join this one. And with that, I think we'll end a little early here. For some of us, it's still lunchtime, so thank you very much for spending lunch with us. And Mindy and the folks at DOT, thank you so much for all the work you've done. It's pretty amazing. I didn't realize all the communication artifacts and all the things that you're putting out there to help make this change happen smoothly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mindy. Aloha, everyone.
Aloha. Take care.